y'all, I'm Stacy with SouthernBite.com. Let me show you how to make my quick and easy cracked pretzels. If you love this recipe, do me a favor, like the video and then subscribe to the channel. That way, every time we post great new recipes, you'll be notified. This recipe is a super quick and easy way to make a delicious seasoned pretzel. I'll never forget the first time that Heather came home from the hospital with this recipe that a friend had shared with her. Now, she called them seasoned pretzels, but they're so addictive, we call them cracked pretzels at our house. And the best part is they're pretty versatile and they're really easy to make. What I did is I have 1 pound of pretzels that I put in a zip top bag. Now, if you have a regular zip top bag, that's fine. If you have a freezer bag, it's a little bit thicker. That works even better, and I'll explain why in just a second. Now let's talk about seasoning these. I've got 1 cup of oil. That's where we're gonna start, but there are a couple options here. You wanna choose a mild flavored oil. I like to use vegetable oil because it's very mild. You could use canola oil, you could use olive oil, you could use avocado oil. I've even had readers tell me that they use popcorn oil to add a buttery flavor. The thing to keep in mind is that whatever flavor that your oil has, it's gonna impart on your pretzels. So just keep that in mind. That's why I like to use one that's super mild, like this vegetable oil. To this, I'm going to add 1 packet of ranch dressing mix. Now, I said that this is versatile, and it's versatile because you can flavor these pretty much however you like. I think the ranch is a great base, and then you can build flavors onto that. I'm adding 1 tablespoon of dried dill weed and 1 tablespoon of garlic powder. Now, in the original recipe, she called for garlic salt. If you're not watching your sodium intake, I think it does add some great flavor. And if your ranch dressing packet doesn't have a ton of sodium in it, you could certainly use garlic salt. But for those folks who are watching their sodium, you might want to opt for garlic powder rather than garlic salt. But this is also where you can build on some other flavors. If you'd like some heat, you could add some cayenne, some crushed red pepper. If you wanted a little smokiness, you could add some smoked paprika, some chili powder. There's tons of options. Now, I was talking about the oil. I've even had people tell me that they use melted butter. The thing is that my version of these does not require you to bake them. We're gonna pour all this into a bag and we're gonna let this marinate overnight. And believe it or not, those pretzels are gonna absorb all of that oil and we're not gonna end up with soggy pretzels. I do want to explain though, you can speed this process along because that marinating overnight typically takes 8 to 12 hours depending on the exact pretzels that you choose, but you can speed this process along. You can bake these. If you choose to use butter, you're going to want to bake them because we don't want butter just to sit at room temperature on the counter because of the milk solids that are in butter. If you opt to use a shelf-stable oil like this, then you don't have to bake these. What I'm going to do is just pour this oil, and I'm going to whisk this one more time because those seasonings often have a tendency to settle on the bottom of the bowl here. I'm just going to pour this right on top of our pretzels. Zip this top closed, leaving a little air in there because we want this to move around, and then we're gonna just shake this bag a little to get all the pretzels coated in that seasoning. Now the oil is the conduit through which all of this seasoning spreads all over these pretzels. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna let this sit on the counter. Overnight, if you think about it when you walk through the kitchen, flip the bag over, give them a shake. That just makes sure that all of the oil doesn't puddle on the bottom of your bag, and we're constantly turning it to make sure that everything is nice and coated. If you want to speed this process along, line a large sheet pan with aluminum foil, spread this out, preheat your oven to 250 degrees, and these are going to bake for 20 to 30 minutes. You're going to want to stir those every 3 or 4 times during the baking process. That will force the pretzels to absorb that oil a little more quickly. The one thing that I don't like about baking them is it does change the flavor of the garlic powder a little bit. It gets more of that roasted garlic flavor, which is delicious, but it's just not something that I prefer in this recipe, so I like using this quick and easy method. These are a great option if you're gonna make gifts for the holidays, share it with neighbors and friends. You can make a ton of them inexpensively, package them up nicely, and it's just a little gift that says, hey, I thought of you. Once they're done, after, like I said, somewhere between 8 and 12 hours, you can see that these pretzels absorbed all of that oil, and they just have that beautiful coating of all that delicious seasoning on there. One note that I will make, sometimes if you choose a different pretzel the time that it may take for that pretzel to absorb the oil may change a little bit. I'm using these tiny twists like this. You could use other types of pretzels. Just keep in mind that if you're making this for something important, you may want to make it a few days in advance because these are great at room temperature for 4 or 5 days, just to ensure that you have enough time to allow those pretzels to absorb all of that. Folks, you can find this full easy recipe by heading over to the website at southernbite.com and just search for crack pretzels. Y'all enjoy.